Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Theology Sidequest. I'm Fasih,
And I'm Laura.
and today we are going to be covering the commandments 5, 6, and 7. We're going to be skipping commandment 4 about Sabbath for now because we think that it deserves its own episode. So we are going to do it at the last. As we've discussed in the previous episode, some of these commandments are repeated several times in the Quran. But one of the places where you can find these commandments covered is chapter 6, verse 151 to 153.
Right. It parallels Exodus chapter 20. There's several there that kind of align, so it's a good go-to.
So the fifth commandment in Exodus chapter 20, and I think these commandments are repeated in Deuteronomy 5, aren't they? I think we mentioned that last episode as well. So this commandment goes, honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you.
So we have very clear Quranic parallels for this because it's to honor your parents and most specifically speaks very well of your mother, right?
So chapter 17, verse 23 to 24, it says, for your Lord has decreed that you worship none but him, and honor your parents. If one or both of them reach old age in your care, never say to them, ugh, nor yell at them, rather address them respectfully. And be humble with them out of mercy and pray, my Lord, be merciful to them as they raised me when I was young.
So don't be a teenager.
Don't be rebellious.
How many teenagers roll their eyes? Ugh, mom.
I think this is a good expansion on the general commandment of honor your father and mother. It's telling them specifically, like, where are you supposed to take care of them? Because when they reach old age, they're unable to take care of themselves. So you are to step in.
I think also saying, like, whenever it says don't even say ugh, like it's saying, don't make them feel like that they're burdens, right? Don't be disrespectful. Don't be rude. And I think it's funny because as soon as I read that, I kind of chuckled because I associate that with every teenager I ever met.
Quite representative of
Yes.
the crowd that is directed towards. And then there's another one, which is, you found one in chapter 31, right? Which is verse 14 and
Yes.
15.
Right. We've commanded people to honor their parents. Their mothers bore them through hardship upon hardship, and their weaning takes 2 years. So be grateful to me and your parents. To me is the final return. But if they pressure you to associate with me what you have no knowledge of, do not obey them. Still keep their company in this world courteously and follow the way of those who turn to me in devotion. Then to me you will all return, and then I will inform you of what you used to do. So this, for me, I feel like would speak to a lot of reverts that come out of, like, myself, for example. I came out of Christianity, and I have family that is still in Christianity that pressured me to return to Christianity. And we know, of course, that these are shirky beliefs, and we can't associate this partnership with God. So it's been an education for reverts who are trying to figure this out. I would really encourage you guys to talk to people who had to go through that. And then we have a lot of great brothers and sisters that can kind of help.
I would also recommend people to always be involved in the local community by going to the mosque if you have access to one.
I mean, fulfill your responsibilities, but know your limitations, right?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's the...
And then we have chapter 46, verse 15. We have commanded people to honor their parents. Their mothers bore them in hardship and delivered them in hardship. The period of bearing and weaning is 30 months. In time, when the child reaches their prime at the age of 40, they pray, my Lord, inspire me to always be thankful for your favors, which you blessed me and my parents with, and to do good deeds that please you, and still righteousness in my offspring. I truly repent to you, and I truly submit to your will. So I think here we're seeing sort of like an evolution of personal thoughts whenever believers are growing up, So when you're young, you're told to respect your parents, but then you yourself are put into a position where you start understanding what your parents go through.
Yeah. My daughter said to me once, she read something that said it was my mom's first time here too. And so whenever you look at things from that perspective, it's everyone's first time living, right? It's our first time trying to navigate all this. Sometimes our parents grow up with us and they're learning too. So give a little grace.
I think there's a sort of like a social aspect to it as well, because, the oldest child always complains about, oh, I have had the hardest. And then the youngest child is
See,
the
you
one
know
that...
what's really crazy in this dynamic? You're the baby and I'm the eldest. See,
I am the youngest amongst my siblings, yes.
So
I know.
we have two wildly different perspectives.
Okay, so this next one is from these Rana verses, which we mentioned earlier in the beginning from chapter 6, 151. Do you want to read the part where it's relevant to the command?
Sure. Say, O prophet, come let me recite to you what your Lord has forbidden to you. Do not associate others with him in worship. Do not fail to honor your parents. Do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for you and them. Do not come near indecencies openly or secretly. Do not take a human life made sacred by Allah except with legal right. This is what he has commanded you, so perhaps you will understand. So do not fail to honor your parents is what's relevant here.
This is like, again, a general command. It's honor your parents.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Arabic only has honor your parents. The do not fail to is an added context by the translator.
Okay.
So honor your parents is that specific part, which is kind of word for word from the commandment, right? And like we mentioned, it goes on to talk about these other commandments, which are sort of rolled into these 3 verses from 151 to 153. But we shall read the relevant part from these verses when we're discussing them.
So the thing that keeps standing out to me that's like so significant is that both the Quran and the Bible put honoring your parents immediately after the commandments related to God. I mean, in the 10 commandments, you'll have no other gods and no idols, right? And then your parents. So this keeps standing out to me that this must be super important. And so the next one that we have is 283. And remember when we took a covenant from the children of Israel stating, worship none but Allah. Be kind to parents, relatives, orphans, and the needy. Speak kindly to people, establish prayer, and pay alms tax. But you Israelites turned away, except for a few of you, and were indifferent. So here it is saying, be kind to parents.
So, okay, and the next one is 436.
Yes.
Worship Allah alone and associate none with him, and be kind to parents, relatives, orphans, the poor, near and distant neighbors, close friends, needy travelers, and those in your possession.
Almost the exact same thing, word for word.
I want to read a hadith. So this is classified as Hasan, is reported by An-Nasai in Sunnah al-Kubra, and also reported by Ahmed. It just states, paradise lies under the feet of the mothers. It's sort of this metaphorical way of saying that you need to be so kind to your mother, because like we see in these verses, how often it is repeated that she bore you through hardship upon hardship. So we should always be very grateful to our mothers that they did go through these hardships to have us. There's a little bit of a contrast here from the doctrine of Christianity about the original sin.
Well, you know what's really crazy? Whenever you look at the doctrine of Christianity, commandments say one thing, but then New Testament, Jesus tells them, forsake. You don't love him if you don't forsake father, mother, brother. Let's see, Matthew 10:37. He that loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. In Luke 14:26, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.
But then wouldn't this mean that Jesus is going against what the commandments are in the Old Testament?
Yeah,
Which is not possible.
that's interesting.
None of that is in the Quran, by the way.
No.
The only time you're supposed to defy them is when they're telling you to worship somebody else other than the one true God.
Right. So I find it interesting. The verbiage just used is in Luke. It says to hate them. If you don't hate your father and
Can you
mother,
honor somebody if you hate them?
no.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. In some ways, though, I feel like they used hate or the way that it's translated, too strong of a translation, because it's like even in the Old Testament, it talks about God hating like Esau. It's like Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated, but he didn't, because he wound up giving him blessings also. So I think the liberty that they take sometimes with the translation is questionable. I just find them to be incongruous, the commandment versus what Jesus was telling them.
At least in the New Testament, in Greek,
Yeah,
we have to put that caveat because we don't know what the Aramaic or Hebrew Jesus used.
true. Very true.
Now we move on to the next command, which is about murder. It is Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. And it simply says, "You shall not murder." But what did you say in other translations it is?
Well, you always see it in Christianity, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. And the commentary that we see from the Christian scholarship, this word doesn't mean to kill. It means to commit murder. And it's basically in the same way that the Quranic usage where it says, don't take a life that is forbidden. This is saying, there's an exclusion of killing in war, capital punishment, accidental self-defense. So it's a specific, it's a like an unlawful capital like murder.
So the only two translations that I can see on Bible Hub which have "thou shalt not kill" is KJV. Even the new King James Version has switched it over to say murder, so it's just the KJV. And then the American Standard Version, "thou shalt not kill."
But if you ever look at, say, like if they ever have it posted anywhere, like anywhere that you ever see it posted, it always says kill. Like it never says commit murder. I've never heard, I'm not gonna say never. So like if you go, they used to have it like the courthouses, right? You'd have the 10 commandments up and it would always say, thou shalt not kill. And the understanding is a general understanding of taking a life. But the word usage, the word that it's translated from says differently. It's a specific.
So the Hebrew word is ratzach,
Yes.
and the meaning listed in Bible is properly to dash in pieces, that is, kill a human being, especially to murder. So it's like a specified case.
What is that, the like definition?
I mean, it does include to kill. It's a contextual meaning of to kill, as in an unjustified killing, because unjustified killing is murder, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. So saying something is unjustified versus, don't kill a soul which Allah has forbidden, it's the same.
With that, I think we have our first verse, which is chapter 5, verse 32 in the Quran, which says, "This is why we ordained for the children of Israel, though whoever takes a life, unless as a punishment for murder or mischief in the land, it will be as if they killed all of humanity, and whoever saves a life, it will be as if they saved all of humanity. Although our messengers already came to them with clear proof, many of them still transgressed afterwards through the land."
So one of the notes that I wrote out to the side of this is by right. Whoever kills a soul unless they have a right to do so.
I think which is the
Then
next verse as well, which is chapter 17, verse 33. "Do not take a human life made sacred by Allah, except with legal right. If anyone is killed unjustly, we have given their heirs the authority, but do not let them exceed limits in retaliation, for they are already supported by law." By law is in brackets. So this is basically saying that don't do unjustified killing.
Yes.
But it's kind of weird that you often do hear, specifically in media, where this command is often repeated, "thou shalt not kill." But then we see the governments run by, in our political climate, we see a lot of these wars being prosecuted by a lot of these Christian nations, which on surface are secular. We can take America, for example. I mean, they're involved in so many wars, and are they justified? Unjustified? Like, how are they justifying these wars and so much killing? But I suppose that's a more political discussion.
Well, I mean, even at that though, like politics aside, like what's justifiable? If you're fighting over land versus fighting over injustice, which is a lot of what we're seeing kind of right now, where's the justification? Something that I've really noticed is that there is no, and I think possibly because we're so desensitized at this point, but there is no sanctity for human life anymore. And, people are unmoved.
This is also repeated in chapter 6, 151, which is
Yes.
do not take a human life made sacred by Allah except with legal right. Then there's
2568.
it's almost the same wording. They are those who do not invoke any other god besides Allah, nor take a human life made sacred by Allah except with legal right. It goes on to say, nor commit fornication, and whoever does any of this will face the penalty. And then there's chapter 4, verse 93, and whoever kills a believer intentionally, their reward will be hell, where they will stay indefinitely. Allah will be displeased with them, condemn them, and will prepare for them a tremendous punishment. Now, I think this is the first time the same verse contains the punishment for them, which is that they will stay in hell forever.
So I think that for us, like I like the clarity. I like the way that it's laid out. Like, don't kill a soul except for XYZ. And these are justifiable things, right? These are,
Yeah. So we've been
like that.
given justifiable reasons, right?
Right.
So
there's clarity. You don't have that on the other
in the
side.
Torah.
Yeah. And then the last one that we're going to look at today is going to be do not commit adultery, which is Exodus 20 and 14. For this one, I find it kind of interesting. I just had a conversation this week. Was it this week? Last week. Last week with somebody about this. And the conversation was the Quran also says, and we're going to list these in a moment, but the Quran also, says that, adultery is obviously not permissible. But this person brought 4 and 24. And 4 and 24 says that forbidden are married women except those whom your right hand possesses, right? This is talking about slaves, prisoners. So the argument was that this person brought was that adultery is still adultery even if they're a prisoner. One of the interesting things is in Judaism and in Islam, whenever there's a capture, this is an automatic divorcing. There's no continuing marriage in a prisoner situation. Also, in Islam, these are women then that they are marrying. You still can't fornicate. You still can't be an adulterer. And there were things that they had to do. They had to still wait their waiting period to make sure that they aren't pregnant from the previous husband. But the verses for this one are going to be 1732.
Before we read 1732, I also want to point out where we read one of the verses where it says in chapter 4, verse 36, worship Allah alone and associate none with him, and be kind to parents, relatives, orphans, the poor, near and distant neighbors, close friends, travelers, and those in your possession. How can you be kind to those in your possession and be adulterous to them?
What I mean, and also the Prophet prohibited harming captives.
Not just captive slaves as well.
But there was a prohibition there. Like they were to be treated well.
Yes, feed them what you eat,
Yeah.
clothe them with what you wear, etc. All of these things. Okay, so 1732. Do not go near adultery. It is truly a shameful deed and an evil way. This is very clear in its...
I have this listed as zina, which is just sexual immorality.
That is adultery. Zina is adultery.
Yeah.
So married, this is between married people. Right?
Yeah.
As for female and male fornicators, give each of them 100 lashes, and do not let pity for them make you lenient in enforcing the law of Allah if you truly believe in Allah and the last day, and let a number of believers witness their punishment. So this is a direct punishment being prescribed.
So 24 and 2 says the adulteress and the adulterer will be flogged, each of them. And Leviticus 20:10 says the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death.
So then there's chapter 25, verse 68. They are those who do not invoke any other God besides Allah, nor take a human life made sacred by Allah except with legal right, nor commit fornication, and whoever does any of this will face the penalty. So this is a verse also repeated for the last commandment that we said, because this contains 3 of these. And whoever does any of this will face the penalty. So again, this is a warning to those who are thinking of doing it or are doing it. I think it's better to repent and ask for forgiveness. So there's one more reference, which is chapter 60, verse 12. O Prophet, when the believing women come to you, pledging to you that they will neither associate anything with Allah in worship, nor steal, nor fornicate, nor kill their children, nor falsely attribute illegitimate children to their husbands, nor disobey you in what is right, then accept their pledge and ask Allah to forgive them. Surely Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. So this is again repeated, like there's a few of these here now. Like, okay, this is what I find slightly different in the Quran, like comparing the Quran and the Torah and the New Testament, right? Children are specifically mentioned in the Quran as nor kill their children. And even in one of the previous verses, it said, and do not kill your children for fear of poverty, right?
And what's funny is it wasn't just in the Jahiliyyah whenever they were killing their children. They were doing it also in these Bible times, right? They were sacrificing their children to Molech, and there's even something in Kings where during this famine they ate their children.
I wonder if there's an angle of property damage or children being seen as property, and that's why it's not given like its proper treatment in that time. And then there's a change, because I think I was having a conversation with somebody about this. Like there's a lot of penalties for property damage. Like women were being seen as property. So in Leviticus specifically, because Leviticus has some of these.
Yes.
Is it Numbers or Leviticus where some of these punishments are being given about
Leviticus.
a woman who does not scream loud enough in a city, etc.,
That's
etc.?
I think in Deuteronomy, actually.
That's Deuteronomy. Okay. Who was it? Was it Dan McClellan that was talking about this, right? About women being treated as property. I think he's given some references from scholarship who back this understanding. So I wonder if children are also seen as property damage, or rather property, and then they're just sacrificing their property to a god, like whenever it's talked about Molech.
Yeah, I think that there's also there's a distinct misogyny in like the Bible. So female children, even less than male children, for everything was for the men, and the wives were property, the children were property, like everything was. I think probably the only thing that arguably I would say sons, right? They were very patriarchal, and they wanted sons, and so they would probably be way less likely to kill their sons than they would their daughters.
Interesting. I mean, like we can see with these verses, right? It's not just specification of what the commandment is. Sometimes it's being explained how you're supposed to follow these commands. For example, taking care of your parents when they're old, not harming your children, not killing your children for fear of poverty, etc. Because there is provision for these people. And then there's a prescription of punishment for certain wrong actions as well. We've seen.
Have you ever taken note of how many, whenever you look at especially the old Levitical stuff, how many things were punishable by death?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
I had a thought. I wonder, and this is going to sound weird, I wonder if they were putting these people to death in the old times because they lacked basic hygiene and there were STDs and stuff being passed around.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me at all, because everything was you see how many of them talked about being leprous?
Yes.
Sometimes it was like a syphilitic condition. They would get syphilis would also cause their skin to rot like that. But I think from just my perspective, I think that it was such a disobedient group that they set all these prescriptions down to honestly, like the whole sacrifice things, like they make such a big deal about, you have to have blood for atonement and all this stuff. I think that the only reason why this was done to create hardship, because if you created a hardship if these people are wandering in the desert and God's got to send manna from heaven to be able to feed them, it's going to be very difficult for them to find an animal to sacrifice for a sin sacrifice because they're already starving.
So the penalty is the rare resource that they possess.
Exactly. So if it's going to be very difficult for you to obtain this, whatever this is for your absolution, then you're going to be less likely to, you know what I mean? Like if you've got a pocket full of money, it's not gonna bother you to spend $5, right? But if you're starving to death and you got 25 cents, you see what I'm saying? Like,
right, the punishment being the penalty, which is more,
right.
which would basically leads you towards prevention rather than having this punishment mean nothing. There's I think it's Finland, which makes traffic violations proportional to somebody's wealth.
Really? That's interesting.
Because they're less likely to commit the crime if the punishment is proportional to somebody's what they would feel hardship. Like, consider a billionaire. $1
Right.
fine or $5 fine is nothing to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is Finland. In Finland, speeding tickets are linked to your income. This is this is a World Economic Forum article. Around 3,400 people die in traffic crashes every day, leading to around 1.25 million deaths globally each year. In 2002, Anssi Vanyoki, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, a former Nokia director was ordered to pay a fine of 116,000 euros after being caught driving 75 kilometers per hour in a 50 kilometer zone on his motorbike. So it is Finland. So I think in that way it makes sense about the blood sacrifice that we were talking about.
So there are several places also where it talks about the stench of the sacrifices, right? And the whole point was, where he says, "I desire obedience and not sacrifice."
I think that's in Ezekiel.
Maybe
Isaiah.
Isaiah. But if you look at it from the perspective of this was done to discourage like the sin, but then whenever you get into a place where you, just like you're saying, when you get into a place where you have plenty, then you're more lax in your discipline because I'm just going to make atonement for it. And so then it's like it's a stink to him because he wants the obedience, not the blood of some animal. Anyway.
Yeah.
I just find that really interesting.
Well, okay. I think with that, we should conclude this episode. And next time we will discuss Commandment 8, 9, and 10. And I think in the episode after that one, we should go back to the Commandment 4, which is about the Sabbath, because I think that will be an even more interesting discussion.
Oh, our favorite.
May all you listeners be well. And I would suggest keep reading the Quran if you are interested in Islam, if you're listening and you're not yet a Muslim. You will find many things there. With that, I will say Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.